There is a strange contradiction that lives within many people. They dream big, their vision stretches beyond the mountains, they speak of greatness, of discipline, of success, yet when the moment arrives, to act, to begin, to move, they hesitate, they retreat into comfort, they wait for motivation. As if it were a visitor knocking on the door. If you are someone who holds ambition in one hand and excuses in the other, this message is for you. You see, laziness is not a lack of energy. It is often the result of a restless mind, a mind that desires achievement, but has not been trained to walk the path of discipline, and when the mind is not trained, the body will never follow. In this moment, ask yourself, are your dreams bigger than your habits? Are you living in alignment with what you say you want? Because if not, then this video is not just advice, it is a mirror, and the reflection it offers may be uncomfortable, but it may also be the beginning of change. Desire without discipline leads to frustration, not fulfillment. This is a truth that many people learn the hard way. You may sit quietly with a head full of dreams, visions of success flashing before your eyes, wealth, respect, health, peace, mastery. But these images remain in your mind, floating like clouds, unless you root them into action. It is not difficult to want something deeply. Most people do. They want to become more, achieve more, experience more. But the difference between those who wish and those who evolve lies in one simple element: discipline. Desire on its own is passive. It can inspire thought, provoke emotion, stir longing, but it cannot move your feet forward. It cannot rise you from your bed at dawn. It cannot carry you through fatigue, boredom, or resistance. Discipline, on the other hand, is the structure that holds desire in place. It is the scaffolding upon which a dream is built. Without it, even the most powerful ambition becomes a source of pain, because you know what you want, but you constantly fall short of becoming it. This is the silent suffering of the ambitious yet undisciplined, a mental tension that grows over time. At first, it may feel like procrastination, a little laziness, a lack of mood, but eventually it becomes heavier. You begin to feel like you are betraying yourself. You are aware of your potential. You see the person you could become, but your actions each day are not in harmony with that vision, and that inner misalignment, if ignored long enough, leads to a kind of fatigue that no amount of sleep can fix. It is the exhaustion of being at war with your own nature. Many people live in this state. They have goals, even detailed ones. They write to-do lists. They watch motivational videos. They read books. But they still find themselves trapped in cycles of delay, avoidance, and self-judgment. The mistake they make is believing that motivation must come first, that they need to feel ready before they act. But this is a misunderstanding. Motivation is fleeting. It comes and goes like the weather. Discipline, on the other hand, is a decision. It does not rely on how you feel. It is an agreement you make with yourself and keep, especially when you don't feel like it. There is an ancient teaching that says, do not pray for an easy life. Pray for the strength to endure a difficult one. This is the attitude of discipline. It accepts that the road to growth will be uncomfortable, even painful at times. But it moves forward anyway. It does not ask for shortcuts. It builds strength through repetition, through consistency, through presence. When you train your mind in this way, something begins to change. You no longer need to rely on inspiration. You begin to trust yourself. You become reliable to your own goals. That is the moment when frustration turns into fulfillment, not because the goal is reached, but because the path becomes your identity. Desire without discipline is like a fire without oxygen. It burns brightly for a moment, then suffocates itself. You can dream all you want, but without a system, without self-control, those dreams will exhaust you instead of empower you. People look at high performers and think they are born different, but often the only real difference is that they have developed the muscle of discipline. They don't wait to feel inspired. They do what needs to be done, whether they like it or not. And over time, that repetition becomes a kind of freedom, a clarity, a strength that no one can take from them. It's also important to understand that discipline is not something you are born with or without. It is not a personality trait, it is a skill, and like any skill, it is developed through effort, failure, and perseverance. You don't have to start big. In fact, the most powerful form of discipline often begins with the smallest actions. Waking up at the same time, committing to 10 minutes of focused work, saying no to one small temptation. These are the seeds of transformation. Because the moment you follow through on a commitment to yourself, you change your identity, even slightly. You prove to yourself that your actions can match your intentions, and that feeling, though small at first, builds momentum. It gives you confidence. It silences the inner voice that says you can't. When you are not disciplined, you live in reaction. You are constantly pulled by emotions, moods, distractions. Your life feels out of control, not because you are incapable, but because you have not trained your focus. Discipline gives you that focus. It brings order to chaos. It turns scattered energy into directed force, and that force, over time, moves mountains. Laziness is often a symptom of unclear purpose or lack of structure. When someone appears lazy on the surface, it's easy to assume they simply lack motivation or willpower, but in many cases, what we call laziness is a deeper confusion, a fog that clouds the path forward. The person may be capable, intelligent, even passionate in certain moments, yet they struggle to begin, they hesitate, delay, and avoid. The problem is not that they don't want to achieve something. The problem is that they don't fully understand why they want it, or how to start. Purpose is like a compass. It gives direction to your energy. When you have a clear purpose, every action, no matter how small, feels like part of something meaningful. Without that sense of direction, your days feel scattered. You might stay busy, but you're not productive. You may jump from one task to another, but none of it seems to lead anywhere important. Over time, this lack of alignment between your daily habits and your inner desires creates a kind of emotional heaviness. You start to feel stuck, unmotivated, lazy, but look closely and you'll realize it's not laziness in the traditional sense. It's the paralysis that comes from not knowing where you are going. It's the fatigue that builds when your actions are disconnected from your deeper values. People who live with unclear purpose often spend more energy trying to escape their responsibilities than they would spend actually doing them. And that avoidance becomes a habit, a familiar comfort zone that slowly turns into a prison. Now consider structure. Even with a strong purpose, if your life lacks structure, your energy will dissipate. A clear goal without a system is like a destination without a map. You may know where you want to go, but you have no clue how to get there. That uncertainty leads to overthinking. You plan, you dream, you talk, but you don't act. The absence of structure creates a mental environment where resistance thrives. You start bargaining with yourself. I'll start tomorrow. I need to feel more ready. I just need to find the perfect moment. And slowly that becomes your routine. Structure, in this context, doesn't mean rigid rules or harsh discipline. It means having a rhythm to your day, a predictable pattern that supports your goals. It means knowing what you need to do and when you need to do it. It removes decision fatigue. It protects you from distraction. Most importantly, it turns action into habit. When you have structure, you don't wait for motivation. You don't ask yourself if you feel like working. You simply show up, and that consistency breeds momentum. There are people who wake up every day feeling overwhelmed, not because their dreams are too big, but because their lives are too chaotic. They have no routines, no rituals, no boundaries. Every task feels heavy because it's surrounded by confusion. But when you organize your time, your space, and your priorities, even slightly, you begin to feel a sense of control. That control reduces anxiety. It clears mental clutter. It makes the first step easier, and once you take that first step, the next one feels more natural. This is why lazy behavior often disappears the moment someone gains clarity about their purpose and commits to a structure. Suddenly, the same person who used to procrastinate for hours finds it easy to wake up early, to focus deeply, to push through resistance. What changed? Not their personality, not their intelligence, just their relationship with time and their understanding of why their actions matter. Many people are trapped in cycles of inaction because they've never taken the time to ask themselves what truly matters. They chase vague ideas of success, influenced by what others say or do, but those ideas lack personal meaning. When your goals are not rooted in your own values, your efforts will always feel forced. And forced effort never lasts. Purpose, when it's clear and personal, gives you energy. Structure gives that energy direction. So the next time you feel lazy, pause and look deeper. Ask yourself, do I know what I truly want? And do I have a plan to move toward it? Because in most cases, laziness is not a weakness. It's a signal. It's your mind telling you that something is missing, either a reason or a rhythm. And once you find that missing piece, your potential begins to awaken. The gap between intention and action is bridged by small, consistent effort. It is easy to speak about change. It is easy to think about becoming better, stronger, more focused, more disciplined. Many people live with these intentions every day. They say they want to be productive, healthy, successful. They plan, they visualize, they talk about what they're going to do. But something is always missing between the vision in the mind and the reality of daily life. That something is execution action, repeated over time, even when it feels insignificant. The mistake most people make is thinking that change has to be dramatic to be meaningful. They believe that unless they can change everything at once, it's not worth starting. So they wait. They wait for the perfect time, the ideal mood, the big wave of motivation that will carry them through. But that wave rarely comes, and even when it does, it doesn't last, because real transformation is not about intensity. It's about consistency. It's not about doing something once in a powerful burst. It's about doing it again and again, even when it's boring, even when it's hard, even when no one is watching. Intentions are only valuable if they lead to behavior. Without behavior, they remain empty promises. You may intend to wake up early to study, to exercise, to meditate, to build your skills, but unless you act, nothing changes. Your life stays the same, not because your desires are weak, but because your habits are disconnected from them. You cannot think your way into change. You must work your way into it, one small step at a time. Small efforts may seem too insignificant to matter, but they are powerful because they are repeatable. A 5-minute meditation, a 10-minute walk, a single page of reading. It may not seem like much in the moment, but over days, weeks, months, these tiny actions compound. They reshape your identity. They prove to yourself that you are someone who follows through. And once that identity begins to form, the resistance weakens. It becomes easier to show up, easier to do the work, easier to stay on course. Consistency builds momentum, and momentum is one of the most underrated forces in personal growth. When you begin to act consistently, even in small ways, you start to feel a sense of progress. That feeling creates motivation, and that motivation fuels further action. But this cycle only begins when you stop overthinking and start doing, even if the action feels small. Especially if it feels small, because that's where habits are formed, in the quiet moments, in the daily repetitions, in the unglamorous effort that no one celebrates. There are countless people with strong intentions who never change their lives, simply because they don't commit to the process. They are stuck in the illusion of preparation. They read, they plan, they gather information, but they never apply. They are always almost ready, always waiting for a better time. But life doesn't reward you for what you plan. It rewards you for what you practice. You do not need to transform your entire routine overnight. You only need to pick one behavior that aligns with your intention and do it daily. That's it. Consistency is not about doing everything. It's about doing something regularly enough that it becomes part of who you are. And the more you show up, the more confident you become. not because things are suddenly easy, but because you have evidence that you can handle difficulty, that you can act in alignment with your values even when it's inconvenient. This is where real growth happens, not in the moments of inspiration, but in the quiet repetitions that no one else sees. The morning you get up when it's cold, the evening you choose discipline over distraction, the hour you focus even when your mind is tired. These moments are where you build the bridge between who you are and who you want to be, not by taking one giant leap, but by laying down one stone at a time every day. Every intention has the potential to change your life, but potential means nothing without movement, and the only movement that lasts is the kind you can repeat, the kind you can sustain, the kind you commit to not once, but as a way of life. That commitment begins with the decision to value consistency over perfection, process over outcome, and small effort over grand promises. Discomfort is the price you pay for transformation. Pay it daily. Every person who has ever grown into something more has done so by moving through discomfort. It is the space between who you are and who you want to be. It is the resistance you feel when you're about to do something difficult, something unfamiliar, something that stretches your limits. Most people avoid it. They interpret discomfort as a signal to stop, to turn around, to delay, but in truth, discomfort is the compass. It points directly to where the growth lies. Avoiding discomfort might feel safe, but it comes at a cost. When you stay in the zone of ease, everything around you might seem manageable, but nothing inside you evolves. You remain the same, living in cycles of repeated patterns. You convince yourself that you're okay, that you're doing enough, that you'll act when the time is right. But the truth is, every day you avoid discomfort, you reinforce habits that keep you small. Comfort is seductive. It makes you believe that stability equals progress. But progress is never born from comfort. It is born from struggle, from tension, from the willingness to endure what most people run away from. The people who change, who improve, who excel, they are not immune to discomfort. They feel it too. The only difference is they choose to walk into it rather than avoid it. They understand that every challenge they face is an invitation to grow. Whether it's waking up earlier than they want to, pushing through mental fatigue, saying no to distraction, or facing their fears, they lean into that discomfort not because it feels good, but because they know what it's building inside them. Growth demands sacrifice, and the first thing you must sacrifice is your comfort. The familiar routines, the easy pleasures, the things that keep you numb, these are the very obstacles standing between you and your potential. Discomfort strips them away. It exposes the raw version of you, the one who has to rely not on motivation, but on character. In those moments, when your mind wants to quit and your body wants to rest, you come face to face with your true self. You see what you're made of, and if you choose to keep going, to endure the pressure, to persist when it's not enjoyable, that's when the transformation begins. This doesn't mean chasing pain for the sake of it. It means understanding that discomfort is a signal that you are stepping outside your comfort zone. It means doing the hard thing not because you enjoy suffering, but because you value who you are becoming on the other side of it. Every time you pay the price of discomfort, you buy a small piece of the future you desire. And the more consistently you pay that price, the more that future becomes your present reality. Discomfort comes in many forms. It may be physical, like pushing your body through exercise. It may be mental, like forcing yourself to focus, to learn, to resist distraction. It may be emotional, like facing failure, rejection, or criticism. But each of these forms teaches you something. They harden your resolve. They teach you patience. They show you how strong you really are. And over time, what once felt unbearable becomes your new standard. You adapt, you elevate, you evolve. Most importantly, when you embrace discomfort daily, you take control of your mind. You stop being a slave to convenience. You stop making decisions based on what feels easy. Instead, you begin to live with intention. You start to choose actions based on what aligns with your goals, not with your mood. This shift is powerful, because now You're no longer waiting for change to happen. You're creating it. There will always be a part of you that craves ease. That part will whisper to you, telling you to rest, to wait, to escape the hard moments. But there is another part of you, a deeper part, that knows the truth. That part is asking you to rise, to resist the urge to take the easy path, to step into discomfort and stay there long enough for growth to take root. That part is the version of you you haven't fully met yet, the stronger, wiser, more focused version who is waiting on the other side of the pain. You don't need to do extraordinary things all at once. You only need to show up each day and do something slightly uncomfortable. Whether it's choosing discipline over distraction, speaking when you're afraid, taking responsibility instead of blaming others, these small acts of courage compound. They become the foundation of your future, and with each act, you prove to yourself that you are capable of doing hard things, that you can trust yourself to walk through the fire without running from the heat. The truth is simple, but not always easy to live by. Ambition means nothing without discipline, clarity, consistent effort, and the courage to endure discomfort. You can dream all you want, but if your actions do not reflect those dreams, they become a source of pain instead of progress. You may feel stuck, lazy, or unmotivated, but beneath that surface often lies a lack of purpose, structure, or the belief that small steps matter. Your transformation does not require perfection. It requires presence. It requires a daily commitment to show up, to take the next step, to lean into resistance instead of running from it. If you are ambitious but lazy, understand that the gap between where you are and where you want to be is not filled by willpower alone, but by the choices you make every single day. Pay the price, embrace the process, and meet the version of yourself that only consistency and discomfort can introduce you to.